It wasn't the Lego sun that broke him. It was the silence. The kind that waits until you open the door, step into your home, and find that everything, absolutely everything, is gone. Jonathan stood motionless in the middle of his living room, staring into the vacuum where his life used to be. No couch, no TV, no table, no sound of running feet, no scent of fried plantain or spilled juice on the floor. Even the little cracked flower vase from their first anniversary, the one she'd insisted on keeping, was gone. "Amara," he called out. His voice echoed. "Mimi?" "Mara." Still nothing. It was too quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Wrong quiet. He moved further inside, slowly, as if expecting someone to leap out and shout surprise. But there was no party, no children hiding, just the pale emptiness of walls stripped of photos, shelves stripped of books, and a memory stripped of meaning. Then he saw it, a single sheet of paper lying face down by the door, like it had slipped from a shaking hand. Jonathan bent down, picked it up, and read. "I'm sorry, Jonathan. I had to go. My conscience wouldn't let me stay. I cheated on you. Mimi and Mara are not your daughters. I can't keep living a lie. I'm taking the properties because I suffered with you to build all of it. Please take care of yourself. Amara." For a long second, he didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. Then the world tilted. The paper slipped from his fingers like a dying bird. His knees hit the floor with a heavy thud. Air escaped his lungs in a jagged burst. He clutched his chest like something had physically torn through him. "No," he whispered. "Not Amara. Not my girls." He saw them. In his mind, all at once. Tiny hands tugging at his sleeves. Laughing at his bad singing. Their voices overlapping. "Daddy, daddy," fighting over who got to pour cereal. Falling asleep on his chest. Gone. His chest didn't ache. It caved. He didn't know when the scream came out. Only that it did. Long and hoarse. Raw from the bottom of a man who just lost the illusion of his entire world. He slammed his fist into the wall. The frame of their wedding photo shattered. He pulled down the curtains, tore them like they were lies wrapped in cloth. He wept, loud and ugly, until he had nothing left in him but silence again. Hours later, night settled in. Jonathan sat on the cold floor, a single bag beside him, his old tool bag from the garage. Worn leather, still stained with oil and grit. The only thing she hadn't taken. And for some reason, that made him cry all over again. He didn't sleep. He didn't speak. He just stared at the door until dawn. The next day, he left. Not for work. Not to search. Just left. He walked through Lagos without direction, his face blank, his soul hollow. His mind spinning between betrayal and disbelief. He ended up under a concrete bridge and stayed there. 2 weeks. Then 4. Then 2 months. He became a fixture. One of the men people passed without seeing. Dirty. Bearded. Gone. But his hands still remembered. Every time he ran his fingers along the rusted rim of a passing Danfo, something flickered. A whisper of gears. A buried instinct. An identity beneath the dust. People whispered when they recognized him. "Isn't that Jonathan? The engineer? The one who fixed the governor's car? God, what happened to him?" No one asked directly. Not really. They looked. Some offered food. Most offered pity. Jonathan took neither. He kept his tool bag close. Like it still meant something. Like he still meant something. Then came the day the city sweltered in its own noise and fumes. The highway groaned with heat. The smell of burnt tires and diesel coated everything. And fate, or maybe something else, finally turned its head. Jonathan was walking, eyes down, dragging his bag behind him when he saw her. A black Bentley, parked awkwardly on the shoulder. Hazard lights flashing. A woman in a white blazer and heels pacing around it. Phone pressed to her ear, voice tight with urgency. She kicked the tire once and swore under her breath. Then checked her watch. Again. Jonathan stopped. Watched. Something stirred. He stepped closer. "I can fix it," he said. The woman turned, startled. Her gaze locked on him. Ragged shirt, tangled beard, tired eyes. She reached instinctively for her phone. "Who are you?" "My name is Jonathan," he said calmly. "I used to be an automobile engineer." "Used to?" "I still am." She hesitated, then nodded once. If you touch the wrong part of that car, I'll scream so loud they'll hear me in a koi. Jonathan gave a faint, tired smile. Deal. He dropped to his knees, opened his bag, and touched the engine like it was something sacred. 15 minutes. No more. Try it now, he said. She got in, turned the key, and the engine purred like a sleeping cat. Her jaw dropped. She jumped out, staring at him like he'd just conjured lightning. Okay, what the hell? Who are you really? And Jonathan, standing under the sun, grease on his fingers, sweat on his face, looked her in the eye and said, I'm just a man who remembers how things used to work. She didn't say anything for a while. Then get in. He blinked. What? Get in the car. You just saved my entire company. That car was taking me to a board meeting that decides whether 200 people keep their jobs. You didn't fix an engine. You saved lives. Jonathan hesitated. She opened the passenger door. My name is Monica Johnson, she added. I think this is the beginning of something. He didn't understand yet what she meant. Not fully, but he got in. The AC blasted cold air on his skin. He flinched. It felt alien, like comfort wasn't something meant for him anymore. Monica drove in silence, her hands steady. He stared out the window like a man being ferried out of purgatory. He didn't know that this woman was one of Nigeria's youngest billionaires, that she built tech systems used by schools and police, that her company was the spine of education in 5 states. All he knew was that she looked at him like he still mattered, and that scared him more than the bridge ever had. Jonathan had forgotten what comfort felt like. The Bentley seats were too soft, too clean. The cold air inside made him shiver, not from temperature but from memory. Cold like the nights he'd spent under the bridge, pressed against concrete, hugging his bag to feel like someone still wanted him. He sat stiffly, unsure where to rest his hands. He hadn't been a guest in anyone's car in over a year, let alone one that smelled like leather and vanilla. Monica glanced at him sideways, but said nothing. She just drove, weaving through traffic with silent urgency. The city blurred past. Familiar streets turned foreign from this angle. Soon, the road narrowed, the noise faded, and the gates opened to another world entirely. Monica's mansion didn't look real. White pillars, marble stairs, manicured lawns, fountains humming like whispers of a better life. Jonathan stepped out slowly, cautiously, like touching anything might set off an alarm. She didn't rush him. Come, she said softly. Let's get you cleaned up first. The house smelled like warm bread and jasmine. Staff nodded quietly and disappeared. Monica walked ahead, leading him through glass hallways and sunlight. Then came the mirror. He stared into it, stunned. He hadn't seen his own reflection in months. The beard had become a wild tangle, the hair a rough halo of dust. The man looking back at him was tired, but underneath it all, his face still had shape, angles, structure, like a blueprint waiting to be rebuilt. The barber came. So did hot water, mint-scented towels, a quiet chair. It felt like a funeral, not for his body, but for the version of him that had given up. Hair fell to the floor. The mirror changed. Slowly, beneath the beard and grime, a man began to reappear. His eyes weren't just tired anymore. They had purpose again, or maybe the tiniest flicker of it. When the haircut was done, Monica returned with a fresh outfit. Dark jeans, a blue button-down, black sneakers. I don't know if these will fit exactly, she said. He stepped into the restroom and changed. When he came out, she blinked. You look, she hesitated, human again. Jonathan chuckled softly. I haven't worn clean clothes since. His voice trailed off. She didn't press. Let's eat, she said. They sat in her sunlit dining room, an absurdly large space for one person. She didn't ask questions at first, just served jollof rice and grill planning. He ate slowly, awkwardly, as if unsure if it was allowed. After a while, she leaned back and finally asked, Do you want to tell me what happened to you? He hesitated. Then he did, piece by piece. About Amara, about the letter, about the betrayal, the emptiness that followed, the nights with no sleep, the days of wandering, the girls, Mimi and Mara, and the hole they left behind. Monica didn't interrupt. She barely moved. When he finished, he stared at the table. Silent. You love them deeply, she said finally. I still do, he replied. Even if they're not mine. She nodded, then paused. My father died when I was 16, she said. He built everything I have. But what he gave me that mattered most was belief. He believed in me, even when I didn't. Jonathan looked at her, not like a stranger anymore, but like someone who might understand what it means to lose the ground under your feet. I want to believe in someone else now, she said quietly. He didn't answer, but something in his chest cracked open. The next morning, Monica took him to Victoria Island. Her company headquarters stood like a monument of glass and steel. Inside, people moved with quiet precision, laptops, meetings, phones ringing. Everyone greeted Monica like she was royalty. Jonathan fell out of place. Then she led him into her private office, handed him a folder, and said, I want to invest in you. He blinked. What? I want to open an automobile workshop. A proper one. State-of-the-art. Clean. Efficient. You'll run it. He opened the folder slowly. There it was, the registration, the business plan. Everything already in motion. Why are you doing this? He asked. Because you fixed a Bentley on the side of the road, she said. And you didn't ask me for a single thing. He stared at the papers. His fingers trembled. I don't know if I'm ready. You will be, she said. That evening, she showed him the space. A garage lot, newly leased. Spacious. Open. A blank canvas waiting for grease and genius. He walked through it like a man returning to his childhood home. These walls, they'll smell like engines soon, he whispered. Monica smiled. I hope so. Over the next few weeks, things moved quickly. She brought in lawyers, developers, marketers. Jonathan stood by and watched his name appear on signs, invoices, documents. J&M Auto Tech Monica even arranged housing for him. A modest flat near the site, simple but his. Equipment arrived. The smell of fresh paint mixed with the sharp scent of rubber and steel. New lifts. Digital diagnostic systems. Waiting lounge with AC, Wi-Fi, and coffee machine. It didn't feel real. But when the doors opened for the first time, people came. Old clients. Curious neighbors. Strangers who had heard whispers. Some doubted. Others believed. But once Jonathan touched an engine, there were no more questions. Word spread fast. Within 2 months, J&M Auto Tech became the most talked-about garage in Lagos. This guy fixed my Range Rover in 1 hour. He fixed what 5 other mechanics said was unfixable. Jonathan? That man is a magician. And Monica? She came every evening. Sometimes to check in. Sometimes just to sit. They talked about machines, but also about grief and healing and strange chances life gives you after it's taken everything away. One evening, she invited him to her rooftop. The stars were just beginning to appear. They sat quietly, sipping juice, watching Lagos twinkle below like scattered gold. Do you ever think about your daughters? She asked. He nodded. Every day. I wonder if they remember my voice. If they miss me. If they think I abandoned them. You didn't, she said softly. You were a good father. You still are. He turned to her, eyes tired but clear. And you saved me. Monica smiled faintly. No, you saved yourself. I just reminded you of who you are. He took a breath, almost said something, but then his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He stared at it, then answered. There was a pause, then a voice. Jonathan, it's me. Amara. He froze. Monica turned sharply, watching his face go pale. I need help. Amara's voice cracked. Please. I have no one else. The girls, Mimi and Mara, they need you. Jonathan couldn't speak. Where are you? He asked at last, his voice hollow. Outside your gate. He stood, phone still pressed to his ear, not breathing. Everything in him wanted to collapse. Amara, the woman who tore his life in half. The woman who told him the girls weren't his. The woman who left him to rot. Outside his gate. With the girls. He turned to Monica. She's here, he said. With them. Monica stood slowly. Let's go, she said. I'll come with you. And together, they walked toward the gate, not knowing what waited on the other side. The mansion gates opened like jaws. Jonathan's breath caught as he stepped forward, Monica close behind. The soft light spilled across the driveway, painting shadows on the marble, revealing the figure standing in its glow. Amara. She looked nothing like the woman who once filled rooms with laughter. Her beauty once sharp, radiant, was buried under exhaustion. Her wrapper was loose, barely holding to her frame. Her bare feet clung to the edge of the steps like they were afraid to move forward. And behind her, two girls, Mimi and Mara. They had grown taller but thinner, clothes worn, eyes dark with fatigue. Yet when they saw him, everything stopped. "Daddy!" They ran without hesitation, shoes slapping the ground, little hands stretching forward. Jonathan dropped to his knees and caught them both as they crashed into him, sobbing. He couldn't speak. He only held them, arms tight around their backs, heads tucked into his neck. They felt real, alive, still warm, still his. "I missed you," Mimi cried. "I prayed you'd come find us," Mara whispered. He held them tighter. "I never stopped thinking about you," he managed, voice shaking. "Never." Behind them, Monica watched silently, her heart clenched. Then Amara stepped closer, her voice small. "Jonathan." He stood slowly, still holding the girl's hands. His eyes met hers. She didn't flinch, but her gaze never held. He opened the door. "Come inside." Monica guided the girls toward the guest room, offered them warm food and new clothes. They hesitated at first, not wanting to leave their father's side. But he knelt, cupped their faces gently, and nodded. "I'll be right here," he promised. Once the door closed behind them, only three remained in the room. Jonathan, Amara, Monica. The silence grew dense. It wasn't anger that filled it. It was grief. Amara sat on the edge of the couch, hands folded like someone waiting for a sentence. "I didn't come to beg," she said finally. I wanted to tell the truth." Jonathan said nothing. He waited. "I believed him," she continued. "The man I left with, Maxwell. He showed me a DNA test. Said the girls weren't yours. I thought I was doing the right thing by leaving, not ruining you with my shame." Monica's eyes darkened. Jonathan frowned. And then, "It was all a lie," Amara whispered. "He faked the results. Said it was punishment for choosing you over him back in university." Jonathan stood still. "He kicked us out," Amara said. "Took everything. Said the girls weren't his either. We've been living in shelters, friends' places. I tried to find work, but nothing lasted." Her voice broke. "I remember what you told me once," she said, blinking rapidly. "Even if the world turns against you, I'll still love those girls. So I brought them back, because I had nowhere else left." She looked up finally. "They're yours, Jonathan. In every way that matters. They always were." He stared at her, his fists trembling at his sides. Not with rage, with heartbreak. The betrayal ran so deep it didn't burn anymore. It just ached. "And the letter?" he asked. "I believe the test. I thought leaving would save you from shame. You destroyed me," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "I know," she said, "and I've hated myself every day since." Monica stood quietly, watching Jonathan. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He just looked at Amara like a man staring at the rubble of a house he once built with love. "I don't want anything from you," Amara said. "Just help them. Please. They need a future." She looked at Monica. "I didn't know you were together. I'm not here to cause trouble." Monica didn't flinch. "You already did." Jonathan turned slowly, walked to the shelf, took out his checkbook. "What are you doing?" Amara asked. He didn't answer. He wrote the numbers in silence. Then he tore the paper and handed it to her. 2 million naira, he said. Enough to start again. A small shop. A place to sleep. Amara's lips parted, stunned. "Jonathan, don't thank me," he said. "Just don't waste this." She nodded, tears falling freely now. Monica stepped in. "You can stay here tonight," she said. "Tomorrow, we'll help you find a place." Amara opened her mouth to speak, then closed it. She only nodded, holding the check to her chest like it was life itself. Later, when the house grew quiet, Jonathan sat in the girls' room. He watched them sleep, their arms wrapped around the same teddy bear. He reached out, brushing a lock of hair from Mimi's forehead. 5 years. 5 birthdays. Gone. Monica appeared at the door, carrying a blanket. She knelt beside him. "You've been sitting here a while." "I'm afraid," he said quietly. "Of what?" "That they'll wake up and disappear. That I'll blink and be back under the bridge, and none of this was real." Monica took his hand. "This is real." she said. And they're here because you never stopped loving them. He looked at her, eyes damp. You saved me. No, she whispered. You saved yourself. He smiled faintly. And I love you for it. Monica smiled. I love you too. Then she reached into her pocket. I have something for you. But before she could speak, a knock echoed through the hallway. Jonathan stiffened. Who could that be? Monica whispered. He stood slowly, leaving the girl's room with careful steps. The knock came again, not loud, just steady. At the front door, he paused, looked at Monica, then opened it. A man stood there, tall, clean, confident, a white linen shirt rolled up at the sleeves. A gold chain shimmered faintly at his collarbone. Good evening, the man said. Is Amara here? Jonathan's blood turned cold. Who are you? My name's Maxwell. Jonathan didn't move. Behind him, Monica stepped forward. You're the one she ran off with? Maxwell chuckled lightly. That's one way to put it. What do you want? I'm just here to make sure she's not spreading lies, he said casually. She's been telling people I faked a DNA test, that I ruined her life, which isn't entirely fair. Monica narrowed her eyes. Isn't it? Maxwell smiled, teeth white and perfect. She made her own choices. Then Amara appeared. She froze the moment she saw him. I told you never to come near me again, she whispered. Maxwell raised an eyebrow. I thought you'd be more grateful. I gave you a chance to start over. You tricked me, she snapped. You forged a test. You took everything. And when I had nothing left, you threw me out like trash. The girls stepped into the hallway, clutching the doorframe. Their faces froze. Maxwell's eyes flicked to them, something darker flickering behind his smile. Careful, Amara, he said. I still know things. Things that could hurt your reputation. Monica stepped forward, her voice like glass. Leave. Now. Maxwell looked around, gaze lingering on Jonathan. Then, with a lazy shrug, he stepped back. Enjoy your happy ending, he said. But just know, not every story stays perfect. And with that, he disappeared into the night. The door closed behind him. Jonathan stood still for a long moment, then turned to Monica. I'm not scared of men like him. She nodded. Good, because he's already behind us. They walked back to the girls. Mimi looked up at him, eyes wide. Who was that man? Jonathan knelt and hugged her. No one important, he said. And in that moment, with Mara curled against his side and Monica's hand resting on his shoulder, Jonathan finally understood something. He had lost everything once. But some things, once found again, can never be taken. The mansion had grown louder, in the best possible way. Where once Jonathan paced through silence, now there were giggles echoing down the marble hallways, soft crashes from pillow fights in the living room, and high-pitched voices calling Daddy, guess what I drew, from behind half-closed doors. The house no longer echoed loss. It hummed with life. Every morning started with the scent of pancakes and arguments about socks. Mimi liked hers pink. Mara insisted on purple. Monica, once a tech mogul with 2 phones in her hand by sunrise, now stood barefoot in the kitchen, hair tied up, gently nagging the girls to brush their teeth before syrup. Jonathan had stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. The weight of old pain hadn't vanished, but it no longer shaped his every breath. He worked the garage from morning till late afternoon, hands deep in engines, brain humming like the machines he loved. And at 6 on the dot, he was home. Always. And then there was Monica. She hadn't changed. Not really. Still sharp, still efficient, still capable of terrifying an entire boardroom with a single raised eyebrow. But something in her had softened. She smiled more, walked slower, lingered longer when Jonathan held her hand. The wedding was her idea, but the way she framed it, not a production, not a performance, just us and the people who matter, made it easy to say yes. And so, on a warm Sunday evening, in a garden bathed in strings of yellow fairy lights, Monica Johnson became Monica Adebayo. It was a small crowd, close friends, the garage staff, a few relatives. Amara sat in the second row, quiet, composed, dressed in a soft green gown that didn't ask for attention. The twins, now confident, joyful, and slightly mischievous, walked ahead of Monica, scattering flower petals with theatrical flair. Jonathan waited beneath the arch, dressed in a navy blue suit that still smelled faintly of engine oil. His palms were sweaty, but his eyes, locked on the woman walking toward him, were steady. Monica wore white. Simple. Fitted. No diamonds, no tiara. Just honesty. When she reached him, the girls placed her hands in his. "Looks like you've got competition," she whispered with a smirk, glancing at the twins. Jonathan smiled. "They're the reason I'm even standing." The vows were short. "I promise to choose you," Monica said, "even when life makes it hard." Jonathan looked at her, voice low but sure. "You gave me back my life. I'll spend the rest of it protecting yours." There were tears, applause, laughter, and just as they kissed, someone released 2 paper lanterns into the sky, the girl's idea. "Like we're sending up wishes," Mara had explained. And just like that, they were family. A year later, baby Ina arrived. She came early, screaming and red-faced, with Monica's eyes and Jonathan's nose. From the moment he held her, awkwardly, reverently, like she was made of glass, Jonathan was undone. "She's everything," he whispered. Monica, sweaty and exhausted in the hospital bed, nodded with a sleepy smile. "She's us." The house, once grand and quiet, became chaotic and perfect. Ina cried at 2 a.m., gurgled through conference calls, and spat up on Jonathan's favorite shirt just minutes before a live interview. But none of it mattered. He was home, fully, undeniably. The garage thrived. Lines of customers wrapped around the building most weekends. New hires came in, many of them apprentices from the same neighborhoods Jonathan once walked through like a ghost. He trained them carefully, sternly, with the same patience that had saved him once. He often said, "I'm not teaching you to fix cars. I'm teaching you to build dignity." And they listened. One Tuesday afternoon, Monica sat alone in her office, sorting through photos on her laptop. Mimi and Mara's graduation pictures. Ina's first wobbly steps. A photo of Jonathan holding the girls, all 3 covered in paint after Family Art Day. Then her email pinged. Subject: confidential information regarding Maxwell and the DNA test. Her heart paused. The sender was anonymous. The file attachments, PDF documents, a zipped folder of audio, and a line of text. He lied. "You deserve to know." Monica's hands trembled as she opened the files. There it was. Real DNA reports. Official signatures. The girls had always been Jonathan's. From the very beginning. She pressed play on the audio. Maxwell's voice. "Yeah, I faked it. She was dumb enough to believe it. He was even dumber. I just wanted her. And I got her. Who cares about the kids?" The recording ended. Monica sat still for nearly a minute, the room silent except for the soft buzz of the air conditioner. Then she stood, walked quickly down the hallway, and found Jonathan in the sunroom, bouncing Ina gently in his arms. He looked up, saw her face. "What's wrong?" She handed him the phone. He read. He listened. And when it ended, he said nothing. Then, softly, so he knew, even back then, Monica's voice was low. "What do you want to do?" Jonathan looked out the window. In the garden, Mimi was braiding Mara's hair. Ina's toys were scattered across the grass. The sun painted golden lines across the floor. "I already have everything I ever needed," he said. "The truth is just a bonus." But Monica saw it, that flicker in his eyes. And she knew, some wounds never fully close. They just learn how to live under the skin. 3 days later, the knock came. Not at the door, at the gate. A letter, folded by hand. No stamp, no signature. Jonathan opened it slowly. "Dear Jonathan, you may not remember me, but I remember you. My name is Emmanuel. You called me Emma, the apprentice who always lost his tools. You taught me more than how to fix a carburetor. You taught me how to carry myself. You told me, skill makes money, but character makes a man. I almost joined a gang. You gave me a job. That saved my life. When I heard what happened to you, I wept. But seeing you now, I believe again. Thank you for living your truth, even when it was hard. May your days be long. Emma." Jonathan folded the letter, closed his eyes, pressed it to his chest. Later that night, as the girls slept, as Ina snored gently on Monica's lap, Jonathan stepped out to the porch. He stood beneath the stars, the same sky he'd looked up at from under the bridge. He remembered the hunger, the dirt, the cold. And then he looked through the window. 3 girls asleep. A woman he loved. A home full of laughter. He smiled. He had survived. But more than that, he had risen. Time passed. Not in a rush, not in silence, but with steady rhythm. Like a heartbeat finally finding its pace again. 2 years had slipped through the cracks of laughter and work, of school runs and workshop openings, of bedtime stories and baby milestones. And in that time, Jonathan became something more than a husband, a father, a businessman. He became whole. J&M Auto Tech now had 3 branches across Lagos, each buzzing with young apprentices, clean uniforms, state-of-the-art equipment, and one unspoken rule: respect the machine, but respect the man more. His motto. It was painted on the wall in bold blue letters. The media called him the mechanic with a mansion, but he never liked that. He preferred when customers called him sir, out of respect, not pity. When former street boys, now mechanics in training, stood proudly in overalls, calling him Oga J. Monica had expanded too. Not her company, which was already vast, but her capacity for joy. Somehow, between board meetings and product launches, she found time to design a children's tech curriculum and launch it in 20 schools. And still, she was home every evening, kneeling on the floor with Ina, pretending plastic blocks were skyscrapers. And then, the day came. Graduation. University of Lagos was flooded with proud parents, clicking cameras, and the echo of drums. Mimi and Mara stood among the white-coated sea of future doctors, gowns pressed, eyes gleaming. When their names were called, they walked forward, not as twins clinging to each other, but as women who had walked through fire and come out golden. Jonathan stood in the front row, Monica beside him, holding Ina, now a bright-eyed toddler with curls that never obeyed a comb. They clapped, loud and unashamed. He didn't hide his tears. When the girls turned toward the crowd, their eyes found him, and they smiled. A quiet moment passed between them, invisible to everyone else, a kind of soul handshake. You made us feel safe again. You made us believe again. That night, after the dinner and speeches, Amara approached Monica. She waited until the crowd thinned and the music turned soft. I just wanted to say, she began, thank you. Monica looked at her, calm. For what exactly? For raising them. For giving them the kind of love I couldn't. Monica nodded. They deserved it. I was angry for a long time, Amara said, her voice barely above a whisper. At myself. At Jonathan. Even at you. But tonight I just felt grateful. Monica didn't answer with words. She reached out and gently touched Amara's shoulder. A gesture not of friendship, but of peace. It was enough. The next year brought more change. First, the news of Mimi's engagement. Then, just 3 weeks later, Mara announced her own. Both sisters had fallen for fellow medical interns. Different men, different stories, but both kind, steady, honest. The twins made a joint decision. Naturally. We came into this world together, Mimi said, grinning. We're not doing separate weddings. So began the whirlwind of planning the now famous double trouble wedding. The mansion garden bloomed with white roses and yellow orchids. Long strings of fairy lights hung between the trees. Musicians rehearsed traditional Yoruba love songs. Jonathan's tailor nearly cried, trying to meet all the measurements for matching family aso-ebi. On the morning of the ceremony, Jonathan stood in front of the mirror in his suit. He adjusted the collar once. Then again, his hands trembled slightly. You nervous? Monica asked, slipping behind him. He turned. More than when I opened my first workshop. She smoothed his jacket. You're about to give away your daughters. You're allowed to tremble. They're not mine by blood, he said suddenly. At least, that's what I believed. For too long. Monica looked at him. They're yours in every way that counts. He nodded, slowly. I just don't want to let go. You're not, she said. You're just letting them fly. Outside, the ceremony began. Guests filled the garden in soft, elegant waves of color. The twins appeared at the entrance, radiant. Mimi in ivory lace, Mara in soft gold silk, both glowing. Jonathan took Mara's hand. Monica took Mimi's. And together, they walked their daughters down the aisle. As they reached the altar, Mimi leaned toward her father. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" he asked. "For staying. For choosing love over pride." And on the other side, Mara turned to Monica. "You showed up when everything was broken. I'll never forget that." Monica smiled, her voice warm. "You gave me a reason to show up." When the vows were said, the crowd erupted in cheers. The reception was pure joy. Food, dancing, speeches. Jonathan even danced, to the amusement of everyone who had only seen him in workshop gear. As the sun dipped below the skyline and fairy lights flickered on, he stepped away for a moment, just to breathe. He stood near the edge of the lawn, watching the two couples laughing in the distance, Monica tossing her head back at something Ines said, and Amara sitting on a bench, hands clasped, face soft. Then came a voice. "You built this." Jonathan turned. Monica stood beside him, holding 2 glasses of Zobo. "I only fix things. That's what building is," she said, taking what's broken and giving it life. They sat under the stars later that night, just the two of them, like they had on the rooftop all those years ago. Ina was asleep upstairs. The girls had left for their honeymoon. The house was quiet again. "I used to think peace meant being alone," Jonathan said. Monica leaned into him. "And now I know it means being safe. With the people who never let you forget who you are." She kissed his shoulder. "You stayed standing, Jonathan, even when everything tried to knock you down." He smiled. "Some men build towers. Others build families." The wind moved gently through the trees. And for once, nothing interrupted the stillness. No knocks. No letters. No ghosts. Just home. Just them. Just love. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.